Hi, this is Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow with another edition of HealthyLivingForExpansions.com. The first thing I want to remind you is that I am not a nutritionist. I read energy. So the things that I tell you happen to be what I personally study for energy, for frequency, and not necessarily for the verbiage that is out there on the internet or what people say, because what I have learned is that words basically are meaningless. It is the energy behind the words that actually tell me the truth. So today, because we've been talking about the body and about nutrition, I want to address sugar. Because sugar seems to be an extremely controversial word out there right now, and a lot of you do not understand exactly what sugar is or the purpose of sugar. So if it was up to me, I would revise the food pyramid. And in the food pyramid, I would only have 4 nutrients. One is water, which you need for your body. One is fat, which you need in order to have a healthy brain, a healthy nervous system. You need cellular integrity with the fat. You need good fats in your body. The third one I would have in the food pyramid is protein. Now again, this protein is widely and hotly debated. Do you need animal protein? Do you need vegetable protein? Well, in my opinion, you need some of all of that because of where you are now. So I do not promote vegetarianism or veganism or anyism unless you have a specific health issue that requires that. Any long-term deprivation of animal protein, and 99.9% of the people that I see energetically, they are losing out. Their body, especially the internal organs, are not being built and maintained. So a lot of stuff going on here that you need to be aware of. The fourth group that I would put in, fourth nutrient in my food pyramid, would be sugar. Yes, you do need sugar. It does provide energy for the cells, and it also helps you grow if you're in a growth period. However, what is sugar? That seems to be something that people as a general rule do not understand. Myself included, not just but a few years ago, because I used to actually cook a special dish for somebody who was a type 2 diabetic who I knew could not have sugar. And I made, the base was a crust of white flour and butter and sour cream and yeast. And to me, that did not have any sugar in it. And then I would use all fruit jam. And again, there was no sugar listed on the ingredient. However, when I gave it to this person, they'd say, "Thank you for making this for me. It's sugar-free." Well, it wasn't sugar-free. First of all, fruit has sugar in it. And white flour, when you eat that, it turns into sugar into your system. So you might as well sit down and eat white sugar by the spoonful. It doesn't really make much difference. Now, I was raised on sugar. We had sugar 3 times a day. I had coffee cake in the morning, cookies for lunch, and I had pies and cakes at night for my dinner dessert. And in between, my mother would make Kool-Aid. If she made vegetables, she put sugar in that to sweeten it. You know, I had sugar morning till night. So I really became, in my opinion, addicted to sugar. And sugar, believe it or not, is as addictive as heroin and cocaine, because it still affects the pleasure centers in your body, which secrete dopamine, which makes you feel good when you eat sugar. That's why when you emotionally eat, a lot of times you go to the sugary foods. Now, on nutritional quizzes, they often say, do you prefer salty foods or do you prefer sweet foods? Well, when I think about that, what are salty foods? Usually the salty foods are pretzels, potato chips, nuts. These are things that are crunchy. So you want to chew on your food, but those are still foods that turn into sugar in your system. So when you take those nutritional quizzes, basically, it doesn't really matter which side you answer. You're still talking about that, yes, I want sugar in my body. Now, when I started recognizing that processed sugar wasn't so good for me, then I went to other things, as I kind of previously hinted at. I replaced white sugar by first cutting it in half, and then I changed. I would put in fruit. Sometimes I went to maple syrup. Sometimes I went to honey. Sometimes I went to brown rice syrup. All those things Even though I cut them down, we're still probably way too much for what my particular body needed. Yes, you do need some sugar, but you don't need to be shoveling it in the way most people do. And technically, if you sit down to a bowl of pasta, you might as well be sitting down to a piece of chocolate cake, because the effect in your body is the same thing. It still goes to sugar. Now, if you have a complex carbohydrate, it goes more slowly into sugar in your body, such as beans or leafy vegetables, those kind of things. Check my notes to make sure, because I think I had one other example that most people can relate to. Okay, so most people can relate to not only beans, but whole grains. Whole grains also usually slow down a little bit more than a pasta or a piece of cake, but it is still turns into a sugar into your body, and it's a little easier for your body to deal with it, but it still creates sugar in the body. Now, if you're an emotional eater, don't think eating pasta is going to be any different than eating a piece of cake, and stop thinking, oh, I'm being good because I'm depriving myself. Being good doesn't mean deprive yourself. Being good means being good to yourself and eating foods that you like. So I hope you're watching my cooking podcast, because in my cooking podcast, I show you about foods that you can put together that are whole, nutritional, and feed the body. Because remember what I tell you, your stomach can actually be full while your body is starving nutritionally. So you have to be very careful about what you put in yourself, and you have to begin to understand the body. If you eat well, you can be satisfied emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and physically. All you have to do is readjust the way you think, because the body always follows the mind. So if mentally and inwardly you're happy and healthy, your body is going to follow along. You're not going to feel deprived about anything. You don't have to worry about, am I going to be full or not? You can go to a party and see a plethora of foods and really not want any of them, because your body isn't craving anything. It's no longer empty. Your emotions aren't empty. Your mind isn't empty. You feel full and well nourished on the mental level. That's what's more important than anything else. Now, I also want to recommend a couple of books to you if you want to learn more of the scientific things. This is Sweet Deception, written in 2006 by Dr. Joseph Mercola, along with Dr. Kendra Deegan-Pearsall. The research in here is excellent, and even things like agave syrup is not what you think, and it goes on and tells you a lot of very good details about artificial sweeteners, xylitol. What are you really putting into your body? Read this book. It's excellent for its research. This is another book that I happen to use, and I don't even know if it's still published, Nutrition Almanac. I have used this one for probably 30 years or more. This is a second edition. The last time it was published was in '84, that in the book I have, and I don't know if it's out there anymore or not, but it's also an excellent one to give you a basic idea of what you need for your body. It doesn't have to be fancy, but you can have whole foods, because when your mind is whole and you've pulled things together, you don't need foods that are segregated and compartmentalized. So whole mind means whole food. And diet, well, you know what? Everybody's on a diet. This is what you have in your diet. Diet now means deprivation. It shouldn't. Diet means what you eat. My diet is blah, blah, blah. It's not diet because I'm doing without. So you need to do a little bit more research about what you put in your body. But first of all, do the research about what's going on into your mind. My February blog, we are talking about detoxification of the mind, which leads to detoxification of the body. Happier, healthier you, which is what this is all about. I want to thank you again for joining me, Janet Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow, for another edition of Healthy Living for Expansions.com.